We all good?
I think so. You can see my drink. Do you want to be really cool? There's a guy in here yesterday who works for Red Bull.
Oh, I saw him.
Yeah.
Italian guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask him to sponsor the podcast 2 episodes in, and I'll be like, "Oh, hey, do you want to you just drink Red Bull then when we
This could be
the podcast?"
I reckon we should maybe ask.
Or we ask Schweppes.
Oh, I'd be so pissed off if Schweppes sponsored me.
Why?
Schweppes, like Red Bull Monster. Schweppes.
Yeah, but mate, they cost so much money. You got a sponsorship with Schweppes. Think of the opportunities you get with that. They probably spend so much money on like marketing and stuff. We would just be a little drop in the ocean.
What would you want then from a sponsor?
What do I want from a sponsor?
For like the top for like
God, I think realistically, I would want from what we are right now.
Yeah.
We're just a little product of a recognition. If we were sponsored by Schweppes right now and they gave us free Schweppes, you'd buzz in. It's like free gin and like pay for the gin, you get free tonic. And Schweppes is not like that cheap. It's not as good as Fever Tree, but just having that as a product, I think would be fine. And then as we grew more, cash. Oh, sorry, we skipped a step there. Product first, then pay for like the AI to edit our podcast. Like £20, £10 a month.
You're setting the bar so low. I've got so many better ideas.
I think we just got a realistic, realistic. Yeah.
I'm not going just straight for the,
what you want? 10 grand.
Build us a bloody studio. We're not going down that route yet. But
you know what you were talking about Steve Bartlett earlier?
Yeah.
You know, like he like pumps oxygen into the room when he does the podcast for like clear, so he can have clear thinking while he interviews his guests. It's like I wouldn't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what he does. He's like either the whole setup for his podcast is like really streamline efficiency for his like podcasts, and he speaks about like having the air like pumped with oxygen so everyone can think clearer. I'm pretty sure that's a thing.
I just take like modafinil or Ritalin.
Yeah, I know. It'd be so much easier, isn't
LSD.
it? I know.
Just imagine the chats you can have on that. That'd be amazing.
LSD chat. Maybe our next one will be that.
Could get quite intense in your mind.
Yeah.
It depends how much you take, obviously. I think LSD, I think they use quite a lot of it now for, I've got this book, my brother-in-law gave it to me, Brad, and it was a case of they use it for problem solving. Like high achievers use it to problem solving. So if they've got like an idea in their head and they can't quite crack it, they take a really low dose of LSD and go into it with the intention of, I want to fix this. So they'll have, say, a big table with everything laid out for them. They take a bit of LSD. They go through the part where it's quite like intense. And then as soon as you start coming out of it, then you can start thinking clearer. And then that's when they go into it's a book. I can't remember what the book's called, but
what type of people do that?
LSD therapy. Anyone can do it. People from Silicon Valley.
Really? Like creators,
entrepreneurs. Yeah.
Wow.
Makes you think. Just rewires neurons in your brain to just think differently.
Yeah.
And wires. And what are they? Neurons that. What's the saying? Neurons that connect together, gel together, or something, and it makes you think differently. Or neurons that fire together, wire together.
Yeah, that's mental. Fair play.
So it could be. Give it a go. But yeah, my sponsorship was thinking like new cameras.
Oh yeah.
Better mics, a video editor, pay for a Jamie for us.
Yeah, I think that'd be better. So maybe you're in charge of the next steps for the podcast then.
I think
Instead of just a couple of Schweppes.
Yeah, you can just do the emails and do the talking.
Yeah,
so if I could, you got the gift of the gab.
Okay, I'll try and bullshit my way to the end.
I was thinking the other day. I remember when we went on holiday, and we were just talking about wine tasting. And I was watching a program with Soph over Christmas, right? It was like James Martin's cooking or whatever, and they were like cooking this meal, and there was this guy there who was like a wine connoisseur, and he was just saying like, oh, something that really compliments this is that he was like fucking lamb or something. Something that compliments lamb is this red wine, is this deep bodied, and he just was waffling so much shit. And I thought. You have like
Jordan can do that.
I was like, Jordan can do that. But I was like, this is so much shit talk. Like stuff that he's just like like the wine community is made up
100%.
just to sell a bottle of wine. So when we hear him say it, we go, "Oh wow, that sounds right.
Yeah.
That sounds about right."
Mate,
It's absolute bullshit.
when we went for the Christmas party, I spoke to the guy that was, are they called like smeliers or something like that? Like, I don't think it's that. It's the wine people anyway, the wine experts. And I was like, I said, a bottle of red for me and my, the manager, me and Biz. And I was just like, just get a bottle of red. And he was just like, oh, what do you like? I went straight to like 19 Crimes.
Let's just go check and see that.
Yeah, we're on.
It's all good.
I went straight to 19 Crimes. I was like,
I might put that there, actually. Just there.
Show me.
Yeah.
I was like, 19 Crimes. I was just like, I like that. And he was like, okay, what like notes? And like, I was like, thinking, I was just like, oh mate, like, I don't know. I was like, I like, this is my naivety. I was like, I like oaky sort of like tastes. And the only reason I said that is because my Saf's uncle, was like, oh, this has notes of like this. I overhear this. So I was like, I'll just regurgitate that so I don't sound like a cock. And then he's like, pulls up this wine list and it's like £300, £400, £500 bottles of wine. And I was like, obviously not. I was like 20 quid, like 30 quid at most. But how mad is that? It's like you said, like all these like deep bodies and notes and stuff like that. And it's like, how much value can you taste to warrant paying that much in like wine? Do you know what I mean? So if someone is an actual true wine connoisseur, right, and they're really into all these wanky tastes of wine, at what point is it so good that you have to pay hundreds and hundreds of pounds more than something that's slightly less
honestly,
good?
Genuine. So I read a marketing book over Christmas by Rory Sutherland. Have you heard of Rory Sutherland?
Yeah.
Super smart guy. And it's the stories that we tell ourselves. So for example, he made a good example is Tesla.
Yeah.
Right. So Tesla have come out and created these electric cars. And people who buy Teslas, what story do they tell themselves? Oh, I'm buying this car because it's better for the environment.
Yeah.
But if you actually look at a Tesla, comparable to a petrol car, it's not actually that much better for the environment because you still have to mine for lithium and all that stuff. So you're still having some kind of impact on the environment. But because of the story that you tell yourself, you look at a Tesla and you create that story.
Yeah.
So it's very similar with wines. They will tell you a story, then you perceive that story as, oh, this red will go better with red meat. Whereas red wine goes with red meat. Who made that up?
I know.
Who made that
You're
up?
told what to think, how everyone thinks
Exactly.
it.
And then because the majority think it, then you don't question it.
Yeah.
Like, who's to say white wine doesn't go better with red? But just because it's red, we perceive it as that.
I know.
It's mental. Like human psychology is bonkers.
No, 100%.
Break it down.
100%.
Right.
Should we get into it then?
Let's move into it.
Probably should start now.
Yeah, definitely. So I think what I'll do is now, as we're talking about this, I'll put like a ding, 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 that song.
Yeah,
okay.
nice.
Right, confessions box or confession sock. Do you want me to pick it out today?
Yeah, you pick it up today. Maybe this could be like our sponsor upgrade as well. We get a box.
I think that would be fantastic.
Than a holy sock.
Holy sock. Okay, do you know what? I've been really, really nervous about this because I don't want to pick one out. It's really bad. It's really crude.
Oh, really?
Really, really crude. I think this is mine. Okay, this is probably the second most crudest one.
Really?
Yeah.
Go on,
okay, so basically, I was in.
Read it first, and then explain it.
I'm not
You're giving it context.
Yeah.
Don't give it context. Say it as it is, then provide the backing story.
No. I'm gonna do it differently.
All right, okay, fine.
So I was in university, second or third year, I think it was, and I was at a house party, and there was quite a lot of people there, and I'd been drinking. Me and my boys had been drinking all day, and I got to the point and I was like, oh, I need a shit. I need a shit. So I asked one of the girls, because the house party was in the girls' house. And I was like, oh, girls, where's your toilet? Where's your toilet? They said, no, it's upstairs. So I went to the toilet and I was like, locked the door, started having a shit. And I was there just minding my own business on my phone. And I came to the end and I was like, looked around, no fucking toilet paper. I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do here? So there was a bath mat, a shower mat.
Oh, no way.
Was on the floor.
No way.
And I went to it and I wiped my face and literally left it there.
What?
Literally left it there. And then the next, honestly, because I was a bit pissed, I forgot about it. And then the next,
Didn't even turn it over.
I think I turned it over.
Okay.
Yeah. So I turned it over, left it there. Then the next day, I completely forgot about it because I'd had a few drinks. And I woke up and they were messaging one of the boys saying like, "Oh my God, I can't believe someone wiped their ass in our shower mat." And it was me. And to this day, I've not told anyone about it.
That's unbelievable.
It's terrible.
Why didn't you just go to the tap and just get a bit of water and go that way? Like, surely that's a better option.
I don't know. I don't know.
Mate, that's fucking...
It's vile, isn't it?
Mental.
So I've got a worse one than that. I'm really scared for it to come out. So by the way, if not that anyone's ever from uni's ever watching this, by the way, I just want to say I'm really sorry.
Oh, mate,
First bad, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't even have a follow-up question to that.
No.
It's just lower the tone of the podcast.
Yeah. Well, sets the tone, I'd say.
Okay.
Because this is, I think it's us, isn't it? We're quite crude.
Quite crude. Quite
minging. It is a better word.
Oh, but at least we're a bit older. We've come a long way.
Yeah. I'd never do that again.
Yeah.
Unless I was desperate.
Yeah, it's fucking mental.
Right. So, with that out of the way, should we go into the next part, which is the main bulk of the podcast is saying. And then I've got after that Mikey's question because we actually asked our Instagram audience this week, didn't we?
We did
for some questions. So what do you want to go into first? Should we just go into that one first?
Well, Mikey's question.
Yeah.
I think before we get into Mikey's question, I'm genuinely curious because you were like, "Oh, you can ask me a question this week," and I was like, "Oh, what can I ask Dan?" I've got a question for the end that I can flick to you, but I think it'd be quite good to unpack because people know now we've got like me on here. I got Zero, which I'm sure we'll talk about in future episodes, but then we've got you as the skinny fat specialist. So my first question to you, one is you can briefly give an overview of like your business, but my question to you, which I actually don't really know the answer to, which I know that you've done in the past, is you've declined working with women, and I want to know why. So I want you to give an overview of your business, like why skinny fat, why not just fat? Like most people do, fat loss specialist, why skinny fat? So I want to know why that, and then I want to know why you prefer not to coach women.
Cool. That's a really cool. It doesn't think anyone's ever asked me this before,
yeah.
So I'm looking forward to.
And I've never asked you. Don't know why.
No. Well, thanks for the question. I guess. So, how far back do you want me to go? Do you want me to go back?
So you were the flexible dieting coach before.
That's right. I'll start there.
Start there.
So, cut a long story short, started. Like most PT, you start, don't you? And you're just finding your feet. I remember when I first qualified, I was like, I can't wait to start coaching, men. I can't wait to get them on stage. I can't wait to get people, absolutely shredded, doing their first competition, 100%. Coaching them to do that. And my first ever client was an Indian woman, 35, called Amita, lovely woman. We still keep in touch now. But that was my first client, and it was a real shock to the system because I had come from a background where I understood calorie tracking. I knew how to track, I roughly knew how many grams of protein was in a chicken breast. And Amita, she called herself an Asian blonde because she wasn't the brightest spark in the brightest tool in the toolbox. And it was a real learning curve for me because I came to the realization that she had two kids, 2 boys, and typical mum, being pulled pillar to post. So kids are a bit older now, I think. But back then it was a case of like, she couldn't stick to anything that I was giving to her. And I had to almost relearn that not everyone has got the same desire as me to want to track calories, train 5-6 times a week, to, do my cardio before work and then train after work. So that's where it started. And then I essentially just started training everyone and everything and everyone, because that's what you do when you start.
Of course, yeah.
And then you get a feel of the kind of people that you enjoy working with. So I started getting online coaching then from someone, and he got me in really good shape. And that's when I was like, I want to start doing this, because he had a real big impact on my life, my coach did. And I wanted to do what he was doing, coaching men specifically. And I went down that route then. I kind of closed myself off to working with women online. And I'll come on to that in a second on why I came to that decision. So I started just working with men, and then I rebranded, because at the start I was Flexible Fitness, which looking back, I was like, what the fuck does that even mean? It could be coaching people to learn how to touch their toes. You know? Could have been anything.
Yeah.
But then I went on to the Flexible Dieting Coach, and that stemmed from me coming from a background where I genuinely believed at the start that, if you ate healthy, clean food, you'd lose fat. That was as simple as it was. But then I built up a really bad relationship with food towards that point.
What, personally?
Personally. Because I genuinely thought, I said demonize food like sugar, chocolate. It even got to the point where I was like, I can't eat fruit. Sugar and fruit's really, really bad for me. Can't eat that. And looking back, like, it's delusional.
Yeah.
I still see an element of that in some people. It makes me quite sad because I just see my old self in them.
Yeah.
So then my coach taught me this thing called flexible dieting, where it was a case of, it's almost like 80-20 rules. 80% of your food can come from, or should come from, food that you can eat from the ground, so things like potatoes, food that grows from trees, fruits, something that you can kill, meat. But then the other 20% can come from things like a chocolate bar if you want it at the end of the day, a packet of crisps. And it was all just about being able to eat sensibly, sustainably, and just having some kind of balance, And that changed my life. And I was like, I need to tell people this. I need to get my message out there because it genuinely changed my life. And then I started coaching people with that. So I was the flexible dieting coach then for probably want to say 5-ish years, coaching men and a little bit of women. But then I got to a point where I was getting just messages from people, and it was like, can you do my macros? Can you calculate my macros for me? And I was like, is this what I've become? Have I just become a macros coach?
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't want to just be that, because there's more to getting in shape. And I think people genuinely thought, get a bunch of macros from a coach, follow them, get in shape. But there's so much more to getting in shape than
100%.
Getting some macros, and logging your calories. So then I started questioning myself. I was like, is this what I want to be for the next however many years? And as you know, trends come and go. And the flexible dieting trend kind of weaned off. So then I was like, I had a bit of a reflection. I was like, okay, who do I enjoy working with again? I was like, well, I really, some guy came to me actually, a client, and he said, I didn't really think of much of it at the time. He said, I'm skinny fat. And I was like, what, you're skinny fat, whatever. I didn't really think much of it. Then a couple of months went by, and he started getting really good results for me. And he kept saying to me, I can't believe it. I'm not skinny fat anymore. And I was like, I've never heard of skinny fat.
Yeah.
So then I went on Reddit, and I just typed in skinny fat. Or I went on Google, I think, and I typed in skinny fat, and a Reddit forum came up. And it was just full of just men who were just talking about this skinny fat thing. And I was like, started exploring it a bit more, and they were just all coming up with the same questions, I went to the doctor. I realized I got low testosterone. I think this is why I'm skinny fat. So I started doing more digging, and they were all complaining about the same thing. They felt like the food that they were eating was just going to their fat stores, and just were not going to their muscles. And I was reading this, and I was working with a client at the same time. He was telling me the same thing, and I was like, I'll put my hands up. I probably picked the hardest bunch of people to get results, because they've got the worst of both worlds.
Yeah.
They can't put on muscle. They find it really hard to lose fat. Their body couldn't decide to be fat or skinny, so it fucking chose both.
Yeah, it's like a genetic uphill battle immediately.
Straight away.
Yeah.
But I didn't think about that at the time. But I was like, I think I'm going to really enjoy this. So I started just reading so much about skinny fat stuff, and got a little bit, I think obsessed is the wrong word, but I was like, oh, this is really cool. Like being able to, naturally boost someone's testosterone. It was an angle that I'd never seen anyone talk about before. So I thought, oh, this is really cool. I wanted to learn more about it. Started learning more about testosterone and things like that. And then I decided, if I'm going to do this, there was women who was talking about, who were in the forum as well, talking about being skinny fat, but it was predominantly men. And then I came to the realization that I'm a big fan, and I know you are as well, of staying in your lane. And what I mean by that is I think there's so many people out there who are trying to be experts at everything.
Yeah.
And I thought about women, and I said to myself, well, definitely not a woman. I've never been able to experience things like, premenopause. I'll never experience that. I'll never experience being on a period. I'll never experience what it's like to feel after childbirth, knowing how my hormones change and things like that. And I said, I was kind of like, well, why would I coach someone if I can't be relatable to them. Yeah, I can read up about this stuff. I can talk to women about their experiences. But I think if you're coaching someone to get in shape, then I'm a firm believer that you should have at least been in shape once in your life. You don't necessarily have to be in shape all the time as a coach, but you would have to have experienced that, because you do go through quite a few, I guess, psychological changes and emotions when you are getting lean, when you are building muscle. And it's not just about a training plan and a diet. And I came to that decision. I thought, I'm not going to train women. I also thought it would be quite cool as well to just train men, because then you become a bit of a specialist. I'm coaching men. I'm coaching men to lose fat and build muscle at the same time. I'm coaching men to boost their testosterone. That's my thing. That's what I'm good at. Anything else, I can't do it. Someone came to me the other day and said, "Oh, do you mind coaching me to run a marathon?" I've run a marathon, but I'm just like, just get a running coach. Get someone who actually does coaching. Thanks, but I'll help you out with anything else. But for this, just crack on. I guess that's what led to here today.
The skinny fat specialist. And then what is like your like core services then? Because like when you're doing like the flexible dieting coach, were you like solely like nutrition, or were you doing like gym programming, personal training, online coaching, and then nutrition on top? Or was it like primarily nutrition based with a little bit of like gym flair on top of that?
Yeah, it was definitely at the start just nutrition stuff. But then it was just about educating people and being like, well, if you want to build muscle, you can't just eat more protein or eat more food and then build muscle.
Yeah.
You can build muscle in a calorie deficit up to a point.
Yeah.
So that goes to show training is just as, if not more important than nutrition.
Yeah.
So then it was just about educating these people when they came in. And then I was like I said, got to the point where it was just like nutrition. I was like, there's more to it.
Yeah.
It's just 50% of it. And I thought, right, I want to do the training stuff as well. And that's how it changed. But in terms of the how the process runs, so yeah, it's really interesting. So something that I've been doing a lot over the last 2 to 3 years is blood work.
Yeah, that was my next question.
Because I know you do quite a lot of it as well, don't you?
Yeah. Just like, I think they're like some good markers on there. I'm definitely no expert in reading blood work, but there's like some individuals and resources out there, and also just like the generic guidelines just on the internet from where things should be in. So if someone's like cholesterol, like LDL, HDL is slightly out of whack, just like supplementing fish oil and stuff like that. Just like really sort of basic supplemental additions that someone can get from their diet can help with like that aspect. And you don't really need to be an expert in order to like, understand that. It's very easy. I'm sure people that have a lot more information and a lot more, expertise in the field can give way more.
Sure, get someone on the podcast who's an expert.
Be way more comprehensive with like the input into stuff like that. But like with me working with some people that are take PEDs, it's more so for instead of like me reading it to educate, it's more so for them for accountability, so they can see things and just to see the biomarkers and see like the variability. But yeah, my question to you is like, I've seen recently you started encouraging your clients to get their blood work done. So what do you specifically ask for? How does that fit into your service? And then what actions do you take then?
So initially, I give them the option. There's 2 types of blood work that we do. So there's one that tests 11 biomarkers, or there's one that's a little bit more comprehensive that tests 44 biomarkers, I think it is. So to give you some context, there was a client over Christmas. He's 58 years old. He's a great guy. I've been working with him for a few years, and he came to me. He's like, "Oh, look, I've had issues with my prostate before, and I've had some abnormal readings." He was like, "Can we test for my prostate?" I was like, "I'm not."
Who's a PR exactly?
Bend over. But he was like, "I need to look." There was wanted to check some levels or something in his blood. So I was like, "Yeah, the people who I work with, or the company that I work with, are able to do that." So we sent his blood off, and it has come back that it's high again. So I just think that there's so much scope for men to have a comprehensive view of what's actually going on inside of their body, rather than just guessing. Yeah. And I think blood work can show you a lot of what your hormonal health is, and just overall health as well.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, you have got those markers then to be able to work towards, because I don't know if you experience it with your clients, but sometimes just aiming for that higher number on the bar, I want to get to 100 kg bench, and that's your focus. It can get a little bit boring when that's all you're thinking about. Especially with, say, some of my fat loss clients, it's just about just scale weight. They're just hyper focused on this scale weight, and sometimes it's like going, well, hang on, zoom out a little bit. Like that is important. Don't get me wrong, but there's other things that you need to look at as well. And then when they do that, it almost takes the focus away from just the scale weight, which they've been obsessed with for years, and it brings them a little bit more happiness and a little bit more fun into their training and into their journey. And I think when you focus on a few more of the things, other biomarkers to look at, I just think we've got more stuff to look at.
And how does that change like what you do for them then? So say, for example, you removed blood work completely and you were just saying, like, instead of just focusing on like X weight on the bar, you can focus on, I don't know, some like body composition changes, like scale weight on the scales, some strength stuff in the gym, even like really like, you know, obscure things like, you know, you can do like a weird exercise and try and push that or whatever. So like if you do like the blood work for say variety in their training to keep them engaged, like let's say they had some sort of biomarkers that come out of range, you can give an example, give like a real example of one of them. What then would you do what will you do with the client and what will you do with your service then to sort of go at that biomarker? Like what is the blood work bringing that's going to make tangible change to their training?
Yeah, that's a good question. So again, going back to the skinny fat guys that I talked about earlier, a common theme that I kept coming up was seeing, I've been to the doctor said that my testosterone is really low, and that's potentially why I'm struggling to build muscle.
Yeah.
It's why I feel really lethargic. It's why I'm struggling to lose fat. So then they were trying to then naturally increase their testosterone. So when I saw that on Reddit, I was like, well, I know how to do that for people. Because if you look at, again, you said that to use an example. So again, I'll go back to my client Gareth. I've just posted it on my Instagram today, actually. He's almost doubled his testosterone. He's 58 years old.
Unreal.
Right? And he's lost 10 kilograms of fat. So my biggest point of call for anyone, if you want to increase your testosterone naturally, get to a healthy level of body fat. That's the biggest thing. If you look at the research, for anyone who wants to look at research, by the way, have you ever used Examine? I assume you use Examine. Go and Examine. If you type in testosterone, then they've got a protocol on this. You can copy that. But it's a case of the research suggests that most people who are in a healthy level of body fat, their testosterone levels will be relatively healthy as well. So lose fat first. That will be the first point to call. Get to healthy-ish body fat. Anywhere between 15 and 20%, I think, is a good baseline to aim for. Generally, when clients get leaner than 15%, their testosterone either stays the same or even it can start declining a little bit because you are losing too much body fat there. So that would be the first point of contact. And the next thing, and I think this is so overlooked, is sleep.
Yeah.
Because as we know, when you sleep, that's when your testosterone levels naturally almost fixes itself, replenish, and then you get that peak then in the morning, right? So that would be the other thing, is just aim to get 7 to 8 hours sleep. Yeah. And then after that, then comes stress management. You'd be just surprised how many guys who I work with who are just really stressed without knowing it. And then when they're stressed, what do most people do? They turn to food, they turn to alcohol, some people turn to drugs, and certain drugs as well can reduce your testosterone, like weed, for example. Yeah. So it's almost like it's a negative feedback loop. So it's just about breaking that loop and just getting people just generally healthier. Those would be my go-to for most. And then you can add things, or you can experiment with some things then, with things like, natural not natural testosterone boosters. They definitely don't work. Don't go for them.
That was my next question. Tell me how they work.
No, definitely not them. But things like ashwagandha, there's a little bit of research that doesn't actually increase your testosterone. What it can do is just reduce your stress levels, which then in turn can increase your testosterone a little bit because you're less stressed. Yeah. Again, research with that is very, very limited. So I'd be very cautious. But those 3 staples there, sleep, stress, lose fat, build a bit of muscle as well, start training harder, that can elevate your levels of testosterone. Those would be my 3 go-to. Anything outside of that is very like...
Yeah, they're like the big rocks.
They're the big rocks.
It's good. It's really refreshing to hear that though, because like, I don't think it's from a lack of awareness or knowledge. Like that's not revolutionary. Like, keep your body fat lower or you're getting really fat. That's not going to be good for your body, let alone just like hormones. It's just not good for you, making sure you get enough sleep. I think pretty much everyone will be like 7 to 9 hours of sleep. There's people that say they function on less, absolutely fine. I think the reality with the literature now is that's like, you don't function fine on it. You just become accustomed to to feeling as you're feeling on that amount of sleep,
It's
you know?
true.
So it's just like, you know, keep yourself in like a healthy, you know, good body fat percentage, sleep well and manage stress. No one wants to be fucking stressed. And everyone's always, I think society now is really like stressful, isn't it? Like the rat race of how we like do things in the UK is really like, you know, push, and like, you know, political stuff can push stress on people. I know it affects
Money
a lot
as
of
well.
people. Yeah, financial stress and all that sort of stuff. But I think it's good to have like a trainer or a, you know, a professional in like our space, in like the fitness space, that's literally just drawing more attention to things that are actually really important. I think it's so easy for personal trainers now to start try and reinvent all this like nuance, like in my space, in the powerlifting space. And like this may trigger some people, but people are saying things like fatigue singles, primer sessions, and all this sort of stuff that like, in my opinion, is nonsense.
Just trying
in
to
the training
reinvent the
space.
wheel, isn't
Literally
it?
trying to like do some stuff, just trying to find something to give them an edge. And I really believe it's more marketing than anything. Because if you really extrapolate all the stuff that they're doing, it's pretty much bullshit. The basic stuff is still like far better. And then that's all pretty much what we're doing here. It's like you can be really nuanced with like your services, but actually when it comes back down to it, looking after those three big rocks is what's going to put you in like the best optimal position to get the results, providing then the other things are in check, like training and stuff.
Yeah, and I'd probably add to that as well, something that I missed out, supplementing with vitamin D3.
Yeah.
Getting anywhere between 2,000 to 4,000 IU is probably a good starting place
especially
for
in
most
our
people.
climate as well.
Especially now when it's like we're getting 1 degrees this morning.
I know.
We barely get any sunlight. And I think the zinc and magnesium is a good place to start as well,
Yeah,
making sure that you're having enough of that. And then everything else, I think, is noise. You can experiment with a few things, but most of the stuff out there is just, there's no. Is there anything that you'd add to that? Add to that list?
Oh, it depends, doesn't it? Like, I feel like there's not too much more. Like there's obviously supplements like creatine, for example. If you're like a strength enthusiast, there's got like, you know, a profound amount of research behind it to show that it's going to be beneficial. But, you know, I think we're clutching at straws then. I feel like if your diet's on point, and you're, you know, you've got those things in check, then you're pretty much well covered.
I agree.
Cool.
Yeah,
should we get through to Mikey's question?
Yeah.
For the sake of time?
Yeah. Let's do it.
I can't really remember it. I remember he said it into my phone and then I sent it over to you.
Yeah. Do you want me to answer this one?
Sure. We'll say it and then we'll both have an input on it.
Cool. So Mikey asked, do you think with New Year's resolutions and people setting goals, do you think it's better instead of setting a goal to establish habits and focus more on them instead of the goal itself? I think that's like, I've been thinking about this question in bed and how I'm gonna answer
really?
it, because this is something that I probably should have mentioned, that I do quite a lot of work with my clients, and that is making sure that there's structure, routine, and systems in place. So something that comes to mind to me straight away is a quote that I really like. So this is making a noise. A quote that I really like, and that is, you don't rise to the level of your goals, but you fall to the levels of your systems.
Yeah.
And I really like that, because I think it's so true in the sense of, you've got these people nowadays who've got elaborate goals. You know, I want, by the end of the year, I want to be able to do X, Y, and Z. And it's like, cool. I think it's really important to have goals, but what are you going to do every day? What are you going to put in place to make sure that you're exposing yourself to the things that need to be done, so then by the end of the year, you can say, I've reached that goal?
Yeah.
Because you can't reach a goal and not change yourself as a person.
Yeah.
And I think that's the whenever I think some people get this mixed up. I don't know about if you do this, but if I'm working with an online client who I'm meeting for the first time, I always tell them, I'm not working with you unless you get on a call with me first.
Yeah.
And the reason why I do that is, I think some people, when they get on a call with a coach, whether it's because they've had calls before, is they think we're just there to sell them.
Yeah.
Whenever I get a call with someone, the only thing that I'm looking at is to see if the willingness to change is there. Because I think with any goal, there has to be an underlying current of, is the willingness to change there? Because no one, I don't think, and this is my personal opinion, I don't think anyone is going to change, or people, only change when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of of changing.
100%.
And until that shift happens, people just aren't going to be willing to change themselves and their lifestyle. Because I don't know if you've experienced this, but I've noticed that people these days are just, especially say from 30 to 55, they're just like unconscious. And what I mean by that is they're just on autopilot every single day. And I've had clients come to me who are in the late 40s, early 50s. Their kids have grown up and they're looking back at the last 20 years and they're going, I don't know what I've done. Like I've been in dad mode, which is understandable. I've been working towards my career. I've been putting in all of these hours. And I've got to a point where I'm like, I've really let myself go. And then something will happen in their life, whether it's, I don't know,
bereavement or something, family bereavement,
or they'll go to the doctors and they'll give them some bad news. Like, you're on the cusp of type 2 diabetes, you need to do something about this.
Yeah.
Or they'll be on Facebook and they'll a friend that they were in school with died really young. They've left behind a family and young kids. And then it's almost like they go from being unconscious to conscious. They stop and they go, oh shit, I'm getting old. That could have been me.
Yeah.
And then that's the break. So going back to what I said earlier about having that call with someone on the over Christmas, I was on the call with him and I always dig deep. I ask quite deep questions. I was like, we got to a point and he said, we realized that he's here because his dad died when he was younger, and he doesn't want the same to happen to his kids. And I was like, that's your why. That is such a strong why. Like you don't want to. And I was like, the willingness to change is there then. It's obviously there.
Yeah.
And then we got talking about the program and whatever. But I do think if there's an undercurrent, that is the first thing that needs to be, you have to be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
Because people are so tied up in their personality. Like if you are the person who goes to the pub and you're like the main character and you're the one who's necking the pints and you're a good laugh, if you stop doing that, which you will have to cut back on alcohol if you want to lose fat, right?
Yeah.
But then if you're taking that away from someone's personality, all of a sudden their life crumbles. They're not that person anymore. And you're taking away like their ego, essentially, the story that they tell themselves of who they are.
Yeah.
This is going quite deep, I know, but this is the kind of stuff that people just don't talk about.
Yeah. No,
it's like,
100%.
Do you know what I mean?
Man.
People don't talk about it. And it's like, no, this is really important stuff.
Yeah.
So then once that's out of the way and you come to that conclusion, then I think the next step, and this is something this is kind of a process that I talk through with my clients. And the next step then is, okay, figure out an actual goal.
Yeah.
Not just lose 10 pounds, lose 10 kilograms of fat. I think that's a really fucking shit goal. Because there's no urgency. There's no end date.
Yeah.
And it's like, lose 10 kg of fat. Well, you could still lose 10 kg of fat and not really look that much different.
Yeah.
Not feel anything. So I go quite granular with my goals. It's like, okay, what do we want to do? What outcome do we want? Like, when do we want to do it? I think that's really important. People don't put an end date on stuff.
Yeah.
And I think an end date forces you to
call to action.
Turn up.
Yeah.
It forces you to turn up on the days that you don't want to. And then it's a case of, okay, what are the systems that we put in place? So I don't know how I'll ask you in a second what you do, but our systems is a case of like, okay, so what would someone who's already been in your shoes do every single day? And then it's a case of, okay, well, how can we factor them in? So again, I'll use an example. There's a client who's been struggling with his steps recently. And he came up with a really good idea. He said every few days he's stopped doing meetings with people now and he goes on walk-in meetings instead. So it's nice. Well, he needed to get his steps up. And that's then a system that he's put in place himself. I didn't come up with that idea. He did it himself. And I was like, oh, that's fucking amazing. I love that. But then he's come up with that system himself. And there's a system to everything.
Yeah.
There's a system with meal prepping. Like there's a system for making sure that you're turning up to train. Something that I tell my clients a lot of the time is your next day starts the night before. And it's a case of what I mean by that is making sure that if you're going to train the next day, make sure that you've got your clothes folded out and ready to go so you can change into them immediately. Make sure you've got your food ready because in the morning you're going to be rushing around like a blue-ass fly. You're probably going to forget things and you're probably going to go, oh, fuck it, I'll do it another day.
Yeah.
Whereas if you've got everything ready, then it just reduces that friction.
Yeah.
And something that I tell my clients all the time as well is if they are training after work, don't go home first.
Yeah.
Because as soon as your ass hits that sofa,
that can't be asked.
Can't be asked.
Yeah.
Go to, if you can, I know sometimes child support will be an issue for parents, but if you can, go straight from work to the gym and have your kit with you. And it's just friction.
Yeah.
It's just breaking down that friction. And then once you've got all of those things in place, then it comes down to, okay, can I keep repeating this system over and over again and not get bored? And this is where then coaching comes into play.
Yeah.
It's like, cool, I'm here to hold you accountable,
Yeah.
to make sure that you don't do stupid shit along the way.
Yeah.
And I think that's where us coaches come into
No,
play.
man,
Then.
100%. I think you nailed the
I've been
question
thinking
on
about
his
that.
head. I could tell. It's like a book where this coach are really long. I think because the way I would answer that question is literally how you ended it. So how you ended it about like the coach's responsibility and role within that is like, I always think like ask the right questions. And like if
hard
someone,
questions, tough questions,
really
not
hard
surface
questions.
level shit. Yeah,
exactly. Like ask the right questions. And I think that's like the art of coaching, a lot of that. So the question via like, should you have a goal or should it be more like the process to achieve the goal? I think both. And also certain people will have different sort of expectations, but certain people will have different motivations as well. And I'll come at it from a slightly different angle because I work with some like, high performance people as well. Like goal setting for them is important when they want to become like world champions, or when they want to become the best, the biggest squat in the UK, or they want to break the all-time squat world record and stuff like that. Like when I was working with Chris, and he wanted to squat 400 kilo or 401 under 90 kilo body weight. Like I don't need to motivate him. I don't need to set habits for him. Like a person of that sort of caliber is going to have the habits in place.
I'm really intrigued now to see what it is, because I've got another cool question for you.
Yeah. So like with someone like that, it's like he sets that goal. So then the question, but ask the right question back. It's just like, when do you want to do that? And then they'll answer, and it's like, okay, is it achievable? And if it is achievable and there's a possibility, then the stars have to align. The coach's job is to make the stars align. And that's making the stars align is what you were referring to earlier, systems. And then you got to lean on your systems as a coach and then sort of guide that athlete to be able to express what he wants to achieve. So like all of the considerations that you said earlier obviously have to be in check. But basically what we're trying to do at that point then is just keep the athlete sort of engaged and in a position to allow him to achieve that goal. And it sounds like super, super simple at that point, but like the sort of detail that comes within that then to keep them sort of motivated to turn up is going to be like less so because they're just going to do the job anyway, but it's going to be more about the sort of the way that we're crafting the plan, the way that we're allowing them to be able to turn up and perform at the highest level every time. So like the system for someone like that is just purely process. Like the process of things is just making sure that they're doing everything, making sure that all of those like little like 1%ers are in check, so then they can do those things. So like, the process for some people is going to be less about like goals. So someone like Thomas doesn't really like goal setting, but I love goal setting. We're both pretty good lifters, but he is literally just like, if I turn up, do the job, I'll get closer to my goal and I'll be able to do what I can do at that time. And that's very logical, like you can say like, oh, I'm going to squat 200 kilos by the end of the year. And it's just like, okay, that's cool, but you're only going to squat at the end of the year what you can squat. So the number that you set yourself is just a number. You're not going to try and undersell yourself, and you can only do what you can do. So whatever that number is that number. But then someone like me, I get really motivated by numbers. I get really motivated by outcomes. And then I set processes in place off that outcome. So I want to total 900 kilos this year. So I know once I've planned my year out, I know at what comp I want to do it. It's the end of the year. I know in different like sort of thirds and quarters of the year where I need to be in terms of like body weight, where I need to be in terms of body composition, where I need to be in weight wise, and then what I need to do to be able to peak in order for me to give myself the best chance to hit 900 kilos. And for me, that's quite a big goal. But then like if I fell short of it, which I think is important to talk about, because you can set a goal and fall short. Whereas like if you've set a goal, slightly fall short, but you've taken care of the variables, then that's not a failure because the systems that you set in place have been, they've worked, they've allowed for progression, and you're always going to have another opportunity to try and achieve that,
And
so
that just comes with time then, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Just do it again.
Exactly.
Do it a little bit better, a bit more consistent with it, and just give yourself
reflect and repeat. Ask the right questions. It's like, why did you fall short? Is there something that you could have controlled that could allow you to get the extra few kilos? Is there something you could have done to, got better performance or adherence or whatever? Ask the right questions, reflect, make little adjustments in your plan, and then repeat it again in the future. But I feel like, the goals are good, but it can vary from person to person. The systems and the and the framework to get to the goal is going to be the things that you have to really think about. Providing those things are in place, the goal will be wherever the goal will be at the end.
Mm-hmm. I think again, yeah, perfect. Very, very similar. And what I don't want people to think is, because when we say this, because we've been in the game for 10 years, how long?
13.
13. So 10, 13, 20,
Yeah.
that's 23 years. Right?
Yeah.
So us talking about this now seems, it's like, if I can talk about this and make it sound really simple and really easy. And what I don't want to come across is for people to look at this and go, oh, that sounds really, really complex and complicated. Because it's not. But no, it is if you've never done it before.
Yeah.
And once you expose yourself to it and you go through this motion and you've maybe got someone in your corner like a coach, it just becomes then just this streamlined process.
Yeah.
And I think that's what people, my clients at least, value from having a coach.
Yeah.
Is that someone to take all of this away from them and just be like, oh, this is what you're doing. Like, I've got the system.
Yeah.
Let's follow it. Let's try things out. If it works, then we stick to it. We do more of it. If it doesn't work, we'll forget about it. We'll try something else. Try something new. And I think genuinely, it's that.
Yeah, that is
that simple.
And it is the art of coaching, though.
Yeah.
Like people that get confused by this or get sort of intimidated or think it's really, really complicated. That's why coaching is a career and a job. It's because we take these people on to give them the path to be able to achieve their goals. They can set like the outcome goal, and then we pretty much decide whether it's realistic, and then we can just create the systems for them to achieve that goal. As long as their adherence is good, then they're going to give themselves the best chance to achieve that goal. And it's just a case then of, I lost my trail of thought then.
Oh, I hate it when that happens.
I know.
Oh, but I've got a question for you. So if it comes back, it probably come back now that I'm going to just change I'm going to sit on the same topic. And the question that I had for you is, you've obviously mentioned that you've worked with high-end athletes before, like Chris, who you used as an example. And I've worked with no athletes, just the average Joe, walking down the street kind of guy. What's the biggest difference that you've seen in, say, their attitude or their mindset, their approach, that has got them to that point versus, say, the average Joe? Genetics aside from this now, let's just talk about pure psyche. Yeah.
Tunnel vision. Simplest way to describe it.
What do you mean by that?
So, like, I had a call with a girl last week who literally is pretty much just said she wants to be the best in the world. On open powerlifting, she wants to be the best in the world. And she probably will be. She's really, really strong. And like when I do the call with her and you start talking about goals, I find it really fascinating talking to people that have that as like an outcome goal. They're like driven to be like the best in the world and stuff, right? Yeah. Mad. And when I was talking to her and I was asking her questions, there's like no seed of doubt that she's not going to get there. She's American, so like I think American culture is very much like that anyway.
Yeah, they actually encourage people to aim for the stars.
100%.
Whereas in the UK, we're very much like, look at him.
I'll try.
And even if you are then a little bit, say, confident with your outcome, people will be like, oh, have you seen him? He's trying to, they're trying to like shoot you down.
100%.
In the UK, that I found very pessimistic, very negative,
100%,
discouraging.
Yeah.
Go to uni. Get yourself in £30,000 debt. Oh, great decision. Oh, what, you want to start a business?
Yeah.
Oh, that's risky. £30,000 debt. Start a business with no debt.
I know.
Risky, not risky.
I know.
It's fucking the UK culture. Fucked. Yeah.
And so when I was like talking to her, it was very much like it was like set in stone. It's like it's already happened, which is really interesting. It was like she was talking past tense. Like, I am world champion, right? It was mad, right? I know, and it's mad. And then you speak to Thomas, who coaches Colton, who's like the best lifter of all time now in powerlifting, and he's just like doesn't have idols, he just has numbers, and it's just like he's not really looking outward, and like he can acknowledge what people are doing, but he's not really impressed by it. He just sees it as the next thing to be, and it's just like that elite mindset is crazy, and they just do whatever is required of them to achieve their goal. And that's what I mean, like tunnel vision. You just write things on paper. Like I go to these big comps and I'll chat to people. Joseph Whitaker's another one. And it's like, he'll work 10 hours, 12 hours. And then he missed a session yesterday because of his like family commitments. And then he just puts 2 sessions into one after working 10 hours. And then he's like squatting in the 400s and deadlifting in the 300s. And he'll put them into one session, do all his accessories and then go home. And he can't not do it because it's on his program and he has to do it within this like calendar week and stuff. And it's just like that mindset to basically just get the job done, know what is expected of them, know what they have to do to get better, because they realize that when they start getting more elite in the sport, improvements and progress is hard to come by. Like, you have to really squeeze in order to get like an extra 1% on your total. And I feel like elite lifters understand that, and they'll leave sort of no stone unturned in order for them to get that progress. And then when it comes to like coaching these people, then I love it, because I can't get away with being off the mark. If an elite lifter is saying, you're going to coach me, you're going to do like the programming, I need to make sure as a coach that I'm looking at every variable, and I'm making sure that all of those variables are optimal at the right time for that person if they're going to get the most out of their training. Because if you miss the mark a little bit with these elite guys, it can be the
first place and second place, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Or it could be like they hurt themselves, or it could just be that they end up like feeling really, really shit then, and they're not performing well. Like when they're inducing that much fatigue, it's a little bit like you've got to be really on it with like all of the variables, which is really, really fun then. But yeah, the main difference is just like that like sort of application to mindset is just like they know what's required of them, and they will do it. Whereas people that are like more sort of beginner intermediate will sort of like fit it in amongst other things. It's just not high as a priority. If they're a little bit tired because of work, I'll skip that and I'll go on, and then it can sort of like just be less on like on their radar. Whereas these like guys are top in the game, they're not missing a beat.
I think emotion plays a big part of it as well. I feel like what you just said there, they almost these top level people, and I think you can apply this to most sports. You look at, say, best tennis players, fucking footballers. It's almost like they're quite emotionless.
Yeah.
In the right places. Whereas, like, again, I think into some of the men who I've worked with before in the past, a couple of weeks into the diet, I'm getting skinny, hyper-analyze on things, very emotional. And it's like, stop being so emotional.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to lose a bit of muscle when you can't fucking deal with it.
Yeah.
Because then when you start worrying about these things, it stops you from going all in.
Yeah.
Whereas these guys, like, I'm probably going to, I might get injured one day when I squat. Fuck it. I'll deal with that when it happens. Just go through with it. Don't worry about it. Stop thinking about what could happen. Just focus on the now.
It's just
like I said, tunnel vision.
Yeah.
It's just like
focus on getting stronger.
Yeah.
Cross the other bridges when you come to them.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a really powerful way to look at life. It's fascinating.
It is. It's cool.
Yeah.
Right. Really should we end it there for the sake of time?
Yeah. I think this has gone quite a bit.
Yeah.
It? Yeah.
And we can we can carry that on from next week if you want. I've got some other points.
Should we just finish off with one question for you? I've got one question for you.
Hit me.
All right. So we'll finish it with this one, and this isn't going to be too much of. It won't be too long. So I've got fucking loads here. So I'm just trying to pick the best one. Bear with me. We'll go with this one. What's the biggest change you've noticed in yourself in the past year?
Oh my God, that's deep, isn't it?
These are deep questions.
I know. I can't have a 2-minute answer to that. I've noticed about myself in the last, how long?
In the last year. So 2024.
2024 was a massive year. So I opened the business and we'll talk more detail about Zero. But I opened the business in December 23. And I got married in 23 as well. And going into 2024 then, my wife, Saf, got pregnant. So then I had a brand new business and I had a baby on the way in the start of 2024. So it was like external pressure to get this to a point where it was doing okay. So I had like less work stress. So then I can obviously support my family as well. So the biggest change in terms of like myself personally with that period was like, to summarize it, is like, forced myself to grow up and to start sort of like looking further ahead and having some more like life perspective about like what I wanted my life to sort of like form and shape, but not just for me, but for my wife and for my kid when he's older. So sort of trying to create like a pathway. And then that's like the goal. We look at it from the goal setting, and then the systems underneath that. It's like, what systems do I put in place with that? And it's just to really like check myself. And I'm quite selfish by nature. Like I'm quite driven as well. I wouldn't say I'm the same caliber of these elite lifters that are very tunnel vision, but I am very like neurotic with those sort of things. And it is a part of like I've said to you before, like lifting weights is a part of my identity. And so is powerlifting. It's formed who I am. It's formed my career and it's given me like habits and behaviors that I'm like really proud of. So like, it's a case of like using those behavioral qualities that I have, but putting it into a perspective now where it's not overly consuming me as a sole identity to me to be selfish, but using those qualities and putting it into a more purposeful, broader sense, which is my son, my family, my wife, the growth of my company, and how that looks like moving forward. So less selfish, but use the qualities of what made me selfish. Probably not the right way of like sort of saying it, but you can sort of read between the lines and then give me a sense of like more outward thinking and have more considerations for like what's going on around me and what actually is meaningful to me, and give those people the best of me, essentially. So yeah.
Very nice.
Cheers, man.
Good. That was really nice. That was really nice. Good way to end it. Yeah.
Good way to end it. I'm gonna ask you that question then next week.
Do you want to have a read of some of that? Hang on, before we go. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Hope you enjoyed that. Remember to subscribe, like, leave a comment. If you've got any ideas as well for a name, we're struggling. We've had Unracked, which we really liked.
Yeah.
We had Two Twats and a Top Knot, which I really liked, but probably not going to
can't really put that out there.
No.
That's so funny.
And there was another one.
We had Jordan Talks.
Yeah, Jordan Talks. So Jordan Talks, basically. All about him. Nothing there about me.
What else is there?
I'm just trying to find now.
There's quite a few, but anyway.
Yeah, those are the ones that I remember. But I do quite like Unracked. And just, hit us up with your ideas. Thank you. See you soon.
Ciao.